My bold prediction came true on night one of the 2024 NFL Draft. 6 quarterbacks off the board in the top 15. We're going to react to this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know, I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ. And I'm going to cut it right there, DP. You want to know why? Because this is the 2024 NFL round one draft. I'm sorry, I was about to say mock draft, DP. Draft special, our instant reaction, man. We're going straight from the top right. We're going to kick this thing off with the quarterbacks. We had 6 go in the top 15. I know a lot of people put that in their mock drafts, but to actually see it come true was wild. I know that was one of your bold predictions last night, DP. And guess what? One of my bold predictions went through too. So we're going to talk about that also. Then we're going to talk about continuing on from those picks. And then we're going to talk about what were the sleeper picks last night. So this is just the round one instant reaction. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some really good conversation to put all of this stuff in context. We told you guys, hey, check in with us right after the draft, and we're going to have some really good content. And here we go. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit with our title sponsor?
LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Guys, 6 quarterbacks off the board in the top 15. Bold prediction came true. Of course, we knew Caleb Williams was going to be number 1. Jaden Daniels was a lock at number 2. Drake May, the Patriots said, we're not moving, we're sticking and picking. Getting Drake May at number 3. Then having Michael Penix Jr., who I believe was going to, Keith, we talked about it a few times. I said, man, I think we talked about it a couple of days ago. I said, I think he can find his way into the first round. I thought it was going to be more in the teens, in that Broncos and Vegas situation, but that's not what happened. Michael Penix came off the board at 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. He was QB4. Then we had J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings trading up 1 spot to the 10th pick, getting J.J. McCarthy, and then Bo Nix, the Denver Broncos, say, yeah, we got Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham, and yeah, all that sounds good. We're sticking and picking a quarterback. Sean Payton couldn't help himself. He got Bo Nix at pick 12. Keith, when you saw 6 quarterbacks off the board in the top 15, what was your initial reaction to that?
It was back to what we talked about yesterday: supply and demand, supply and demand, supply and demand. There were way too many NFL teams out there that knew that they needed to try to find the future of their franchise, right? And the New York Giants had an opportunity to do it, right? And they could have shook some stuff up even more, but they decided to go with Malik Nabers. Yeah, but I thought that it was my instant reaction to where those guys went. I actually thought more of them went to good spots than actually not, right? We didn't talk about the Atlanta Falcons much, obviously, post the Kirk Cousins trade, but I think Michael Penix Jr. is in he himself is in a good spot because he doesn't have to come in right away and play, right? All the pressure's not on him. They paid Kirk Cousins all of the money, so even fans are going to expect Kirk Cousins to play because they're going to want their money worth, right? But you sit there, you look at all the weapons that he has time to grow, and guess one thing that we always talked about on this podcast, DP? What did we say? We said, hey, Michael Penix Jr., after the Senior Bowl, we liked what he looked like, right? And under center, so start to look out for these Sean McVay type of offenses. They may want to utilize him, and like him in that situation. And where did he go? The offensive coordinator was with the Los Angeles Rams last year. So there's no like we just tied all the dots together. And honestly, I was kind of proud of us, DP, just to, be able to take the scouting perspective of that and then kind of see how that plays out from the NFL perspective. So an instant reaction for the quarterback six going top of 15 was instantly supply and demand. And then looking at the situations, I think this should be fun.
No, I think that, like you said, Keith, those guys felt in good spots, right? Even though a lot of Falcons fans, and rightfully so, are shaking their head and scratching their head, like, what are we doing getting a quarterback at 8 after you just paid Kirk Cousins? And but to go into that contract a little bit, it's essentially a 2-year deal. After 2025, if they cut Kirk Cousins post June 1 in 2026, it would be 20 dead cap for the last 2 years would be 25 mil total, but their savings would be 90 mil. So then you just kind of offset that, 90 minus 25. They come out in the green. So they save multiple $1 million by getting out of that deal. And then you have a rookie contract with a 5th-year option with Michael Penix Jr. So, you know what it kind of reminds me of a little bit? And this is why I think Kirk Cousins, and I understand Kirk Cousins' frustration. This reminds me a little bit of when Russell Wilson was drafted. Just it was a 3rd-round pick. The Seahawks had just signed
Mm.
Matt into a big deal. And everybody's like, "Oh, Matt Flynn's gonna start." I mean, okay, it didn't work out that
Yeah,
way.
that-
The legend of Russell Wilson became, and it began, and it took off, right? So I think all these guys fell at great spots. Think about Penix throwing to Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You have some more receivers there. I think 3rd round, 4th round, they may add some more speed at the receiver position. You got Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, and then of course, you think about having Bijan Robinson in the backfield. But also, Keith, I look at just of course, what the we talk about what the Bears did for Caleb, man. Getting Roma Dunze at 9.
that that's huge, man. If you're a rookie quarterback and you walk in to the NFL, like it's just not normal, right? Especially the number 1 overall pick, and you're talking about a guy like Roma Dunze. You're talking about Keenan Allen and DJ Moore as part of your wide receiver core. DP, if you put that trio together and Rome is who we think he is, right? This is a top 2 to 3 wide receiver core now, like in the entire NFL, and that's so
Yep.
weird that that rookie quarterbacks get that opportunity, especially being at the number 1 overall pick.
And what's crazy, Keith, is the fact that, and I appreciate this with the Bears. I'm not a Swifty, but I know this song. It's me. I'm it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. And the Bears understood that with Mitchell Trubisky, it wasn't a great situation. Granted, he probably shouldn't have been the pick, but it wasn't a great situation. With Jay Cutler was there. He went through like 4 OCs in 3 years or whatever crazy number it was, right? We saw what they did to Fields. They said, listen, we have to take some accountability here and make sure we give this young man everything possible. So for Caleb Williams to break the huddle in training camp, the first day of training camp, and to see Rome at X, Keenan in the slot, and DJ Moore at the Z with Cole Kmet in the middle, DeAndre Swift in the backfield with a adequate O line, right? With solid O line. Oh yeah, he's gonna feel very confident in what he's able to do and be like, man, this is a great situation for us. So I think for him, and then of course, I love the Jaden to Washington pick. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you. I know he's about to talk about Jaden. First of all, DP, I'm not letting the Taylor Swift stuff slide, man. We're gonna have a Taylor Swift show once we get to the summertime, man, and the NFL content, kind of goes away a little bit. That I was not expecting that, DP, on, but draft brings out everything, right? The draft brings out everything. That's fun, man. But no, I want to ask you because we all real quick. It had to be just a quick synopsis, real quick. How do you feel about the New England Patriots still drafting a quarterback? Because I think we both felt like they should trade down, but they went with Drake May.
I mean, because of the fact that because we both said they probably should trade down. I feel good about it, Keith, from this aspect. Like I think I said this to you before. Alex Van Pelt, the OC that came from the Browns,
Mm-hmm.
he's a big stickler on mechanics and footwork. What was the biggest knocks on Drake May? Mechanics and footwork. And I'm like, this is the ideal spot. I did not want him going to Washington, even though our boy Ryan followed over with us at the Draft Network wanted him so bad. I did not want him with Cliff Kingsbury because I don't believe in Cliff as a teacher from the mechanical aspect. I watched him in college. Mahomes had really sloppy mechanics. Mahomes did whatever if he wanted out there. You know what I'm saying? He just did whatever. For me, I think Alex Van Pelt's going to help Drake May. And then also they got the 34th pick in the draft. So like they can either go best tackle available, Kingsley Sue-Matia is right there for the pickings for them. You know what I mean? They can go best tackle, and then they have picks on, later on in day 2 to add receiver help. Or maybe if they say, you know what, let's go with a receiver here, like a Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, whatever it is, and then we can get a tackle in the 3rd round. I think they still are set up pretty well to put some things around Drake. And I don't think Drake's going to start until maybe mid-season with Jacoby Brissett being there.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's a fair synopsis. And if there's belief in the offensive coordinator, then it should be an interesting situation. We'll see how it go. They, like you said, they have Jacoby Brissett to kind of ease some of that stuff. Don't have to play him right away. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. This is round 1, instant reaction. So what we're gonna do, man? We're just gonna continue to talk about these picks from night 1, right? From the first round, analyzing these picks. So coming up next, man, we're about to get into where some more wide receivers went, where these offensive tackle went, the first defensive player then come off the board to pick 14, 15. So we got some rather interesting conversations. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Coming up next, man, we continue to go through round 1 of the NFL, my NFL draft.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, blackened mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Keith, as we continue to talk about round 1, let's talk about some confusing picks, some picks that we didn't really understand when it happened, right? And I'll start. And this is a guy we both like, Keith, a guy that you talked about early in the college football season, if I remember correctly. And you did a YouTube short and said, listen, guys, he is not Evan Neal. J.C. Latham out of Alabama was not just a top 10 pick. He was the second. He was OT2 behind Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. And when the Chargers made the pick, I thought the Chargers was going to trade out of that pick with Minnesota, get more draft capital. You could have gotten another tackle at 11. There was so much opportunity. Talise Fuaga, like you could have gotten whatever you needed. You know what I mean? But they stood and they picked Joe Alt. And immediately I went to my mind, I said, okay, what are the Titans going to do now? Because that was the guy they had kind of pigeonholed. We all pigeonholed Joe Alt to the Titans, right? And then I was like, okay, maybe it's Olu. Maybe Olu sneaks back into the top 10, right? And they said J.C. Latham. And it was a confusing pick for me because they have a big need at left tackle. Andre Dillard, who was their starter for a good portion of last year, was not a good starter for him, for one. And then he left in free agency. So that left a void there, right? I know Bill Callahan's coming over with his son, Coach Callahan, to be the offensive line coach. But at the same time, the left tackle spot was a big need. And Olu Fashanu was staring you right in the face, right? So it's like now, okay, and don't get me wrong, they still had to need a right tackle. But I just felt like with Olu sitting there, pass pro, I'm taking Olu. Run game, I'm taking JC. athleticism, I'm taking Olu. I think upside is, with Olu as well. And I was like, well, that fits the need. Protect the blind side, especially with the quarterback you have, Keith. You got a quarterback in Will Levis who, A, does not move in the pocket consistently. B, he kind of stays like literally stone-footed where he just stands there, tall and strong, Keith. Like, it's an admirable thing to do. Stand tall and strong and take hits, right? Whether it's strip sacks, whatever. His pressure to sack percentage coming out of college was high. You know what I mean? So it's like, I would have rather gotten that blindside protector. I still love the fit for JC, you know what I mean? Because he still need the right tackle. But this was a little confusing seeing that Olu was on the board and you could have gotten a true blindside protector for Will Levis, especially because I think they want to pass the ball more now that Derrick Henry is in Baltimore. You know what I mean? He's no longer in Tennessee. So that was probably the pick. I would truly say that shocked and or confused me the most in round one.
Well, DP, listen, I agree with that synopsis. And what I took away was I just hope that they don't plan on moving him to the left side, right? And y'all plan on keeping him on the right side, because that's the thing that we talked about was like, hey, I think that it was they're opposite players, right? Like Evan Neal was a better left tackle than right tackle on film. Now look at JC Latham. He can do the same thing. He can play some left tackle, but he's a better right tackle, right, than a left tackle. So I hope that they keep him at the right tackle position, because I just wouldn't want to introduce him to the NFL in that situation. And to be honest, right, he's probably gonna have to pass protect a lot longer with Will Levis playing quarter. Well, not a lot longer, right? But that half a second, right? You're gonna have to hold on just a half a second more because, like you talked about, Will Levis want to of holding on to the football, right, to develop these deep passes. So it should be interesting how that thing plays out. And yeah, I was surprised. I don't think very well. That's another thing, DP. Like JC Latham to the Titans was a situation that we talked about in September, right? And then we went away from the last 8 months. There were so many situations where it was like, man, we talked about this a while ago, but then didn't expect it to come back. So that's how I felt about JC Latham. Interesting pick. I'm with you. I thought that they would have went Olu Fashanu there. DP, we got to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, man. And what is going on from that situation? They took Michael Mayer last year, I think with pick 35 or 40, somewhere in the top of the second round, and then they double back. And you know me, I love the player, right? Brock Bowers. I have him one of my blue chip, elite level, top of the line type of guys, right? But what are we doing? Like, I'm trying to understand the thought process, right? At the end of the day, of okay, now are we running a whole lot of two tight end sets, or is this a admission of hey, we're moving on from moving on from Michael Mayer? The quarterback situation still needs to be addressed. You have offensive line issues, but now you have two tight ends that you're taking in back-to-back years. One with the pick number 13, and then one with pick 35ish to 40. I don't understand it. Maybe you understand it, DP. What was your takeaway from that?
I was shocked, just as you were, Keith. I was like, whoa. I was like, because the first thing came to my mind was Michael Mayer, high second round pick last year. Because it was I think Sam Laporta came off the board before him. Dalton Kincaid came off the board before him, and then he came off the board. And everybody's like, okay, they got their tight end. So, especially because after the Darren Waller going to the New York Giants thing. So, I was like, okay. And he didn't have a great rookie. He didn't even have a good rookie season, right? Like, I think combination of QB play, adjusting to the speed of the game, his overall athletic profile, and I think some of that played a part in getting Brock Bowers. But here's and you said it, 12 personnel, two tight end sets. I think that that one thing we know about AP, Antonio Pierce, he wants to play physical. I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel packages. I don't think we're going to see it in the tradition of two tight ends on the line. I think we're going to have Brock is like when they go 12 and they go to like run like heavy sets in that situation. Brock is going to be more the wing tight end off the ball, where Michael Mayer is the better run blocker than Brock. He's going to be more the traditional Y on the line of scrimmage, blocking, setting the edge. We're going to get some splits flow action with Brock Bowers coming backside, getting like a backer, helping with an end, and then also lead blocking on like pitch plays and different things like that. But also what I think about with the when it comes down to the receiving aspect of it, right? You got Devontae Adams as your X. Jacoby Myers can play the slot and the Z. I think this absolutely puts Brock Bowers in that power slot role when they go to those spread 11 personnel packages, where Brock Bowers is going to be in the slot. You want to try to get him matched up on some safeties, get him matched up on some linebackers, right? because right now it's between Aiden O'Connell and I think the report was that they were one of the teams trying to trade up with I think the Jets or with someone in the top 10 to get Michael Penix Jr. or whatever the case may be, because that's a position that they need to improve. So unless they get like Spencer Rattler on day 2, I think it's going to be a Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew QB battle, and I think whoever's at quarterback will kind of feel good to come out to break the huddle, go to 11 personnel, have Michael Mayer tight to the line of scrimmage, Brock Bowers in the slot, Jacoby out wide, and then having Devontae Adams at the X, man. And of course, especially get the run game going with Zamir White. I think this could work. It just was it was definitely a confusing pick initially, and because I was like, well, what's the plan? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I knew that they needed playmakers. So I wasn't crazy. I was like, okay, I get it, but it's just like, man, you doubled down on 2 tight ends back-to-back drafts. High. Okay.
Yeah, no, and maybe it's the combination of with Michael Mayer, I'm sorry, and just what he does, like his upside and also his limitations, right? And so it was just a very weird situation, and you just felt like there were other positions of needs where there's still good value. And like I said, I like Brock Bowers a whole lot. So
I do too.
I'm a player at all.
It kind of reminds me of putting Jason Witten with Sam Laporta. You know what I mean? Like that type of that type of tight end in terms of what Brock Bowers is like. Michael Mayer is going to work the middle of the field between the hashes. Be the big body target, strong, physical, and everything like that. And then Brock Bowers is that this explosive run after catch threat. So I think it's they put themselves in a good spot to be kind of versatile with their offense.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%, 100%. Well, DP, let's keep this thing going, man. We're about to talk about the sleeper picks, right? We like to wake them up, DP. You always talk about getting the alarm clock going. So we're going to talk about the sleeper picks of round 1 coming up next.
We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly that you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do, like play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with the wrecking ball. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. It's time to wake up, guys. Those sleeper picks from round 1, night 1 of the 2024 NFL Draft. Keith, when I look at and I think about sleeper picks, right? And this was an outstanding first round. Great, some great situations. And it's like this was hard to pick. I'm not gonna lie. This was hard to pick. But to me, when I say sleeper pick, and I'm like that pick that we might gloss over right now. I'm going 15. The Indianapolis Colts getting Laiatu Latu. And this was a spot where you have Kwity Paye. When having Kwity Paye and some of the other guys they have, to me, they have guys that can get after the passer, but they don't have that what I call bucket getter, that guy to go get it, right? We see, I like my NBA, my basketball analogies, Keith. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Edwards is a bucket getter. You want to go ISO and get that one-on-one, he's going to get the bucket, right? Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic. When I look at Latu, you think about with a healthy Anthony Richardson, in your division, you got to deal with C.J. Stroud coming off the best rookie quarterback season we've ever seen, Will Levis, who showed his flashes, and the guy that wants to push the ball down the field, he's going to hold it, right? And then Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. You think about with Anthony Richardson maybe giving you a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left. It's 3rd and 15. Your defense is trying to get that stop, and you got a guy like Latu coming off the edge. You get him ISO'd against a right tackle, and you say, pin your ears back and go hunting, big fella. He's got the hand usage, the dip, rip, bend, the inside counters. He is the most polished and crafty pass rusher in this class. A guy that I usually hate the term pro ready, especially because it's like we use that for quarterbacks, and typically when we use that for quarterbacks, they fail. I hate that term for quarterbacks, but for edge rusher and other positions, it makes so much sense because Latu can come in and be Keith. I'm telling you right now, I think Latu is going to be a double-digit sack guy. Like in this Gus Bradley defense, and also why I really think it's a sleeper pick too. They need cornerback help, which I expect him to get on day 2, Keith. But what helps the defense? What helps the secondary?
Yep, they got to work together. They have to work together.
So I think this is a pick that people may have in the moment be like, oh man, it's great. And then kind of recap and people are like, oh, okay. They're going through all the other litany of picks, Michael Penix and this and that and Rome and everything else. Xavier Legette to 32 to the Panthers, right? I think this pick might get lost in transition and translation, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I like the pick too. I thought it was a solid pick, right? Like just one of those solid picks that'll pay off. Obviously, the Indianapolis Colts, not like one of the biggest franchises as far as branding, and it wasn't like the most sexy position, but I think it is a really good spot for Laiatu Latu just sitting in that mid-teens. And we always talked about the first defender off the board, and when will these guys start to fly? And it was in this range that you started to see defenders come off the board. DP, I'm gonna go with, and listen, we still have to figure out the rest of this draft. And I'll tell you one thing, we're going to have a long conversation about those Buffalo Bills and their draft strategy if it does not play out. But I'm going to focus on the positive side. And I'm going to talk about the people who benefited from the trade, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And the sleeper situation is them grabbing the guy who ran the fastest 40 in NFL combine history and pairing him with Hollywood Brown, with Travis Kelce, with Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, we talked about their lack of speed and take the top off. DP, they're taking every top off next year. They are going deep without a doubt. It's going to be a lot of fun out there. And I think it's just a sleeper situation because we consistently, like Ladd McConkey name was more popular than Xavier Worthy's name, right? The A.D. Mitchells, Brian Thomas's, right? Xavier Worthy was a tier, I don't even want to say tier 2. For us, we really liked him a lot. But I think just as far as conversational pieces, right? I thought he was almost like a tier 3 name as far as popularity goes, to where people knew he ran a fast 40. But nobody talked about him as like a first-round lock. I think kind of except for us, as far as us thinking he's deserving. And we even talked about on this show, DP, that he may fall to the second round because nobody's talking about him just as far as momentum. But pairing him up with the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, I'll just sit there and I say good luck. We talked about this months ago. When I say months, I'm talking about October. And we was, going through mock draft Mondays, and it was like, if Xavier Worthy falls to the Kansas City Chiefs, good luck. But they let it happen.
The NFL definitely let it happen. The Buffalo Bills let it happen. People are already calling the Buffalo Bills double agents. It's like, all right, you already can't beat this team consistently, and then you go and let them get this guy. Like, really?
We told them you don't trade with the Kansas City. You're trying to beat stop these guys from going on the New England Patriots.
If KC calls you draft night and you're Buffalo, you hang up the phone.
No, you know what you do? You just
draft Veach, goodbye, and hang up.
You draft a player that you think they want, and then you call a team after them, and then you tell them, please draft the player, right? If there's some type of collusion going on, you have to go with it because you have to.
You can't let this happen, dog. You can't. And Keith, I'll throw one more sleeper pick out here, and I'm gonna go back to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm gonna go to the. Is this the same division? No, to the different division. Because like you said, Latu kind of started that run because we had Latu, Byron Murphy, Dallas Turner, 3 consecutive defensive players off the board. So we had 4 defensive players in 5 picks. I'm going to the Los Angeles Rams, getting Jared Verse. Yeah. Adding Jared Verse to Byron Young. You got Kobe Turner. I remember sitting there with us, and I was like, this is when the Rams were on the board. I said, okay, Byron Murphy, the second's off the board. I said, this is either Johnny Newton or Jared Verse. I was like, I could see maybe a corner here, maybe Quinyon. I said, or whatever. And I was like, I think it's going to be D-line, is it interior or edge? And man, to get Jared Verse and have that 2 bookend speed to power rushers, explosive guys that are really strong-handed, can work their way back inside, contain outside, and then Kobe Turner and what he showcased as a rookie. Man, this trio, this nucleus on that defensive line, man, that's a great nucleus to have. And 3 young guys on rookie contracts, Keith, to build this defense and that pass rush for the future. And this is what you need to do, right? Set the edge against San Fran and get after Brock Purdy, right? Set the edge versus Arizona, get after Kyler Murray. Set the edge versus Seattle, get after Geno Smith. I think the Rams came away with a nice steal and a sleeper pick that people won't talk about as much right now. But when we get to week 5, 6, and 7, it's like, man, Jared Verse is on the tear.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the complimentary pieces. Like you talk about, like you got 3 young guys that you just talked about, right? Can go get buckets on their own with Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and then now Jared Verse. So I think it's a heck of a trio. You're moving on from Aaron Donald. What you do, you don't have to replace him with the exact person, right? We talked about the Byron Murphy and another defensive tackle go 1-for-1. They felt good about Kobe Turner, but then they also felt good about Jared Verse. So I think
and also, Keith, don't rule it out that they might not grab Terry defensive lineman tonight. You know what I mean? On day 2, because I think they have. Oh yeah, they got pick 20. So you think about Rook, Braden Fisk,
right?
Yep. You know what I mean? Like they could absolutely still do it and walk away with Jared Verse as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. With DP, that wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers, man. Thank you for tapping in with us through this draft process. We are having fun. We finally get our instant reactions off the NFL. They wrapped up round 1, so we're wrapping up this conversation over here. But make sure you guys stay tuned with us throughout the draft, right? We wrapped up round 1. We're going to have a day 2 reaction, have a day 3 reaction. We're going to have draft grades. We're going to do it all. So make sure you tap in with us, man. Your guys, your dynamic duo from the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my co-host, my guy, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today, and Everyday Shot for being our everydayers. Guys, you already know what's going to come on tomorrow. Reaction from night 2, rounds 2 and 3. We're going to break down some of our biggest reactions from night 2, rounds 2, day 2, and night 2, rounds 2 and 3. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.